Zaccharie Risacher. Oh, that's what Riley Davis says to me off camera. We're doing best case and worst case scenario player comparisons for the man I am dubbing ZR. Riley is a big fan of ZR, believes he's one of the safest players at the top of this draft board. I am not a big fan of ZR. I believe he is one of the least safe players in NBA draft history. This should be fun. The goal of this is to both give our best and worst case comp and then convince each other whose comp is better and come to a conclusion that we agree on at the end of the video. Let's start with best case comparison for Zach. What is your comp?
So my best case for him is Cam Johnson. Similar size player, similar defensive tools. I think Risache might be even more of like a chaos agent on that end than Cam Johnson is, because I think Johnson has sort of been serviceable to good for most of his career. But Johnson's never been a star, but he got a huge second deal, and I think if Risache hits his ceiling, it's going to result in something like that. I would say the next step for him to get there is to be more of a movement shooter. That's why I don't like the MPJ comps, because I just think Porter Jr. is like on a different level when it comes to, needing no time at all to get a shot off. It doesn't matter if he's like how fast he's running off a screen or something, or whether he's on or off balance, he can hit a shot. And like most of what I've seen from Risache was stand still, spot up shooting. I think he has that potential to grow into a movement shooter. But I would say, Cam Johnson's very good at that, but he's not on the level of MPJ. And so, yeah, that's why I went with Cam for mine for Risache.
I like that comp, and the scouting report you broke down his defense too, and I think Cam maps with what he could be defensively in an NBA rotation if he hits the way you think he could hit. Yeah, I will agree with you to condemn the MPJ one. The MPJ comps make no sense to me because MPJ's talent pedigree was so far ahead of this kid that you just like he was the number one player in his class for years and years and years. Whether or not it worked out and he was injured and his college career was a disaster, you shouldn't compare a guy who was like rumored to be the best player in his class for years and years and years to a kid like Zach. I landed on one that's going to sound really, really harsh, but I believe this. I believe his best case player comparison is Johnny Juzang. A 6'7" smooth shooting guard who doesn't really give you much other than a little scoring and a little shooting. I don't think he's going to be a lockdown defender. I think he's a passable defender. Before everyone runs me off the floor here, Juzang had a better year two in the NBA than I believed he would. And I think there's some upward trajectory here. Johnny Juzang kind of worked his way onto a roster his rookie year, averaged 4 points a game, didn't make shots, 23% from three. You're thinking he's never going to make the league. In year two, he ups it to 7 points a game, and he shoots 42% from three on 4 attempts a game. That's the path for me. If Zach can make shots, he can be a bench guy in this league. And I think there's a world where Juzang has like a 5-year run where he scores in double figures and shoots 40% from three. Maybe he's a trade deadline guy, gets picked up by a contender, and plays a small role. I think that's the best case scenario for ZR.
My comp is so much better, dude. They're like Juzang. I loved Juzang at UCLA, but for one, Juzang is like 4 inches shorter. He's
No, he's
constrained
not.
to.
No, he's
He's
not.
listed at 6'5".
He's 6'7" on Basketball Reference, 6'7", 215.
Well, he's 6'5" on Wikipedia, and
That's don't look at
I'm
Wikipedia.
going with Wiki.
Garbage.
Juzang only played in 20 games this year. That's where those 7 points. I mean, it is impressive. He shot 41% in those 20 games, but I just think like Juzang was a sieve defensively or sieve defensively. Excuse my pronunciation on that one. He was a sieve like on defense ever since his college days. That was his big knock. Even when he had that crazy run that led UCLA to the Final Four, it was like, oh, if he comes out now, maybe he'll be a lottery pick. But the defense was so bad. Like I just think Risa Hayes, the tools, the motor, the instincts, like all of that gives him a higher floor than Juzang.
Okay, but what about the fact that they kind of have the same face?
They do look very similar, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that a lot. They
I'll
have
agree
very
with you. We
similar
can
hairstyles.
we can use Cam Johnson as the best case comp. That's nicer anyway. But look, it was hard for me to come up with a player who is like completely forgettably below average that I could use that didn't seem disrespectful. That was Johnny. Worst case comp. I'll go first on this one. Leandro Balmero. It's my worst case comp. If you're unfamiliar with Leandro, he ended up playing, I believe, just 2 seasons in the league. Let me make sure I get this right. But Yeah, he has only played 2 seasons in the league. He played 1 year from Minnesota. He averaged 1 point a game, and then he played 1 year in Utah where he only played 14 games and averaged below a point a game. He's just bad. He couldn't make shots. He shot 22% from 3. He was a total bust immediately. He was taken 23rd overall in the first round by the Knicks and never cracked a rotation. I think there's absolutely a world where that happens here. Like, I think a team could draft him and he just never plays.
Yeah, I think that's a good pull for sure. Mine was Patrick Baldwin Jr. Just another a 6'9" shooting wing who like wasn't really a shooter. I think in the world where you're talking about when you've looked at Risacher's like shooting inconsistencies, there's definitely a chance that Risacher gets to the league, and it's just the same thing with PBJ, where it's like this kid was an elite shooter coming out of high school and then just hasn't made shots since being in the league. Didn't make him in college. Same thing could happen with Risacher, and if the again, I've said I think the defense translates, but there's still a chance with him being more of a slight build that it doesn't. And he's just averaging 3 points per game for a bad team for 2 or 3 years, and then we don't hear from him again.
I love the Baldwin Jr. comp. Riley, I think I've done 5 of these videos with Carter, and in 4 of them, I've convinced him to take both of my comps. I'm taking both of your comps today. Those were much better than mine. Cam Johnson and Patrick Baldwin Jr. Good job, Riley Davis. Watch all the videos on the channel. We have 75 of these rolling out, 5 per day leading up to the NBA draft. Thank you for watching. The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.